And the really weird part about teleport that I most dislike is the fact that if you take teleport, a defensive, in quotes, a defensive lane, like, you know, recovery summoner, and your opponent takes ignite, an aggressive lane winning summoner, and they all in you at level 2 and kill you, they lose the lane. And to me, that feels like very, very off. It's been a while since the wave matching on all lanes till 14. Is that a change you're all happy with since it promoted a very wave clear push heavy meta mid? Well, it may not be the reason Tristan Corki are there, it partially helps them. That's possible. I'm not in tune enough with the current Trist Corki meta to give a good answer in that direction. I've just been working really, really hard on Swarm, been very, very tunneled on the PvE mode, so don't have the best answer for you in that case. But something I would say is, I think one of the reasons we put that stuff in there, did those adjustments, is to like lower the power of roaming. That was a pretty like deliberate thing. Like generally when roaming is like one of the better things you can do in the game, you get these issues of, for starters, the game just becomes very, very skewed towards high MMR. But then also, like, if you like look at like how a lot of players enjoy like playing the game and playing their lanes, laning phase being less interference from the other lanes tends to be a more enjoyable experience overall. It doesn't mean that roaming shouldn't be a thing. It doesn't mean that jungler shouldn't be a thing, anything like that. But basically it's like the way we tend to see the majority of League players, like say, enjoy playing support, for example, is most support players aren't locking in support so that they can run top lane every 2 minutes to get a gank off or run mid lane. They're locking in support so they can go bot lane and have a duo lane experience. And so we tend to find that in metas where mid and jungle and even top sometimes, when like teleport is really, really strong, are heavily incentivized to just be in other lanes, and that's like the main way they're expressing power in the game. Sorry, jungle's a bad example here. It's more about mid. It's a bit more about mid, top, and support. But you know, it's like, you know, you've heard like the bot lane fiesta thing, where it's like, you know, and at 3 minutes, all 5 people show up bot lane, right? That tends not to be the best version of the game versus something with a more structured laning phase. Again, doesn't mean roaming shouldn't be a thing, and it's always a pendulum, and perhaps the pendulum has swung too hard in one direction. But it is a thing where it was a deliberate change that we made to reduce the effectiveness of clearing out your wave and just leaving to go roam and things like that. I really wonder if teleport is in a good spot. If you've been on my stream before, you know that I'm kind of a teleport hater, so I'll admit my bias. I really dislike teleport's output on the game as a whole. I think it has a good output, which is it makes top laners able to be more interactive in the game in general, especially as the game progresses. But I think teleport creates this really weird lane dynamic thing going on where you can't really make mistakes. You can easily, you can. It's much easier to make mistakes. You can kind of just, you know, take things that potentially should lose in lane and it doesn't matter. And the really weird part about teleport that I most dislike is the fact that if you take teleport, a defensive, in quotes, a defensive lane, like, you know, recovery summoner, it's not actually that, and I'll get to it, and your opponent takes ignite, an aggressive lane winning summoner, and they all in you at level 2 and kill you, they lose the lane. And to me, that feels like very, very off. That taking teleport can turn a lane you probably should lose instead into a lane you won, and make your opponent's offensive choices a mistake. Which to me, that's off. And like, I know that's like why you take TP, right? But like, I would argue maybe TP should be about, you know, map mobility as the game progresses, as opposed to like, you take it because it wins you your lane. Right, I want to be clear. There's a big difference between teleport wins you your lane and teleports helps you recover a losing lane. But I think one of my issues with teleport is that teleport actually, like, it wins you the other lanes, it wins you your lane, and it wins you the late game because of map mobility. And that's what feels like very off to me. And so like, if it was like, hey, they all end you at level 2, and they killed you, and they got an advantage, and you teleport back, and that helps you like make up for your loss, that's one thing. But what actually happens is they all end you at level 2, they get an advantage, you teleport back, they instantly lose. Now they've lost. Now they're the bad player because they didn't take teleport and then they fought you. And to me, that feels like something that's pretty off about mid lane and tends to help move it towards like more defensive play styles, because all-inning someone and killing them early can be like a very dangerous proposition. So yeah. Anyways, I'm not saying anything will change. This is all just really personal opinion, and it's opinion I've held for like a very long time, and doesn't mean anything will change about it, but it does feel just very off to me that teleport is a lane-winning summoner when your opponent tries to kill you. Would a nerf to Swifties be considered? I feel like those boots offer a bit much for their price. So the question I would ask is why? So like, are Swifties... I'm assuming like the assertion is Swifties are overpowered, right? But they're not super popular, except on a couple characters who they're core on. They seem like a good option versus other thing. And so it is hard for me to necessarily look at Swifties and be like, those boots need nerfs. Given they're not the most popular boot choices, they have a niche and they seem to be pretty good at their niche. Like, and so the question would be like, what would be the outcome of nerfing them? By the way, I'm not saying we shouldn't nerf them. Like, maybe they do need nerfs, but like, the outcome of nerfing them is probably you just don't see them, right? And so then I would ask the question, is like the game better off when Swifties are very, very rare, right? And maybe it is, right? Like, I know there's some top laners who go Swift boots and just, you know, use it to beat up melee champs. That's rough. JHIN uses them to run around really fast, as does Senna, right? They're definitely good boots. But the thing I would ask yourself, especially when you're nerfing a system like that, is what does it change about the game, and is that a better version of the game? Some systems are just really overpowered and really overpresent, and so nerfing them gets them to like a reasonable spot. Like, you know, if we nerfed certain AD carry items, they wouldn't disappear, they would just be more balanced, right? And they would like be a better part of the choice structure. But other items, especially the rarer items that people aren't buying a lot already, if we nerf them, the result often ends up being you don't see them at all. And so then the question would be, it's like, well, is that a better version of the game? And it might be. Sometimes we nerf something like, say, Hullbreaker, and you never see it anymore, and then it's just like, well, actually, Hullbreaker encouraging the type of split pushing that it was doing, maybe it wasn't the best thing for the game. And so not seeing it might be better than seeing it a little bit, right? But that's just something to think about when you're nerfing a game system, is it's not... Nerfing a game system, especially one that's not all that popular to begin with, doesn't necessarily make it balanced. It will make it disappear sometimes. And then the question is, do you want that? Is that good?